Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Adobe Fonts Show, episode 54, Adobe Max Recap Fonts Edition.
Welcome. Hi, everyone.
This is a new intro screen for us. We have a new person who's just here now.
No longer special.
Although you were co-hosting when Ari was gone, so you're familiar with this whole part of the process. You know, you're seasoned at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fully baked.
All right. I can start introducing myself for those of you that haven't joined us before. I'm Ari. I am the library manager for Adobe Fonts. So I work with all of our Foundry partners that add fonts to our service. We have over 150 partners and we add fonts every month. And I live in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Awesome.
Next.
I'm Ben, recently living in Nashville, Tennessee, formerly Brooklyn. I'll say that for a few more episodes and then I'll just say Nashville, Tennessee. But I was in Brooklyn for 10 years, so it's still
in your blood.
Yeah, it's taken some getting used to. I still have Brooklyn air in my lungs, I feel. I am a content producer for the Adobe Fonts team, so I put together things like the stream, but also other videos and tutorials and stuff like that so that you can get the most out of Adobe Fonts when you're using Creative Cloud. So that's me. Yeah.
And I'm Jake. I am an experienced designer on the team, so I get to think about how everybody uses fonts and finds them through the Adobe ecosystem and hopefully try to make it a bit better, a bit nicer.
All important jobs, I would say. You know?
So important. So important.
Also, on Ari's note about adding fonts every month, if you are on the Adobe Fonts service, you can sort all of the fonts by newest. And so if you go to the All Fonts page and you sort by newest, you can see the most recent fonts that have been added. Also, I believe we surface new fonts on the homepage as well. So
yeah, there's a lot of ways of keeping up with the newest, latest and greatest.
Indeed.
And we've added so many recently as well.
Yes, some very good ones.
Yeah.
Any highlights for you, Jake?
I will show some in a minute, actually.
Oh, excellent. So we're going to get into some new highlighted fonts on Adobe Fonts shortly. In regards to today's topic, we have a poll for the audience. What are you most excited about after Max 2023? I have a few suggestions in here which you can use if you want to, but you can also add your own and let us know what you're the most excited about after Max. I don't know, Jake or Ari, if you have a thing that blew your mind the most.
I think text to vector really blew my mind.
That was pretty insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to use that.
That the machines are definitely the exciting thing of the moment. AI is everything, and it's so incredible to see how this new technology is being, thought about from such a creative lens, and how we can do all these amazing things in like 2 clicks, which used to take hours of work. And thinking about all the capabilities that's going to bring us as creatives.
I find in my creative process, and this is true if you're sampling music, right? You take someone else's song and you cut up little pieces of it and you find a new rhythm or a new sound, and then you kind of build upon that. And in my process, it's easier to work with something that's already there than like a totally blank screen. And I feel like the text to vector and also text to image is a way to go from a totally blank screen to something. And even if you don't end up using that exact thing, it gives you a thing to jump off from. And the fact that the vectors are editable means you can really tweak it to your heart's content. And yeah, take it wherever you want to go. So that's pretty cool. And the new image model was also very exciting. If you haven't seen that yet, audience, just go look at some of the comparisons between the Model 1 and Model 2. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's really amazing, the difference. I thought it was good, and now I'm like, oh, it's really good.
Way better. All right, well, let's dive into today's topic. On that note, we're doing an Adobe Max Recap Fonts Edition with special guest, really just newest host, I think, at this point. But we'll say special guest for now, Jake. And yeah, we're going to dive into, he was there in person on the ground, so he'll give us the journalistic view into what happened there. And then we'll talk about some other things that are related to Max as well.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure. my journalistic integrity stands. So yeah, I've been to Max a few times before. I think this was my third time in person, and it's just such a fun week. I feel like it's like the only way I can describe it is it's just a candy store for creativity. Like there's so much to look at. There's so much to eat as well. You're just like, washed over with all of these amazing presentations and inspiration, and you get to talk to so many people about what they do, and it's just such an incredible week. We also have, there's all the Adobe booths in the Creative Park. So this year I got to spend a bit of time talking to people who use fonts and, thinking about what they would like us to do better or how we could help their workflows. And we gave away some pins as well. So we made some font pairing pins, and we did a little quest to collect all the pins. Lots of fun.
Nice. Were the other pins at other booths? The other pins?
No. So what the thing was is we gave you one pin, and you put it on your badge, and then you go around and you have to talk to people and find somebody who has your pair. And then once you matched, you would come back and get the other one.
Nice.
That's so cute. I wonder if anyone watching us attended Max. Let us know in the chat if you were there and what your experience was. Did you get a pin?
So, as well as that, this year was the first time I've ever done a talk. And I didn't want to, underdo myself. So I also did a workshop as well. And it was kind of a whirlwind week of talking about type and hopefully inspiring some people on all the capabilities of what we can do with our tools and how to make the most out of Adobe Fonts. So I'm going to do a quick recap of both of my sessions. Obviously, we don't have a full 90 minutes for the workshop, so it's going to be just a little bit of a highlight, and then we're going to talk about some of the other big announcements in the fonts world that we talked about at Max.
Awesome. Let's dive in.
So my workshop, as you might guess, Make Type Work is my new little blog thing that I've been starting in the last couple of months, and I stole the name also for this workshop. So all about typography from Express to Illustrator. And this was maybe a bit of a bad name, but I was mostly trying to highlight tips for typography across the Adobe ecosystem and how you can put them into practice. So as I mentioned, we have the website. You can also check it out on Instagram.
The link is also in the chat, so go check it out there.
Perfect. So this was kind of the little spiel I got to do as the description. So the main aim of this was, and this was kind of a beginner to intermediate workshop. So it was kind of going over typography principles and how you can use them in your work, right? I think a lot of the challenges with working with text is, there's so many rules that you have to know, and it's intimidating, right? Because if you don't know all the different things, it's like, oh, well, how am I doing this right? But it was kind of here's the overview of the rules so you know when you actually need to use them or when you can break them. And then from there, it was thinking about how you can start thinking more systematically with your work, so you can use type as your foundation and build out your designs from there, which is the way that I like to work personally. But there's no right or wrong. So talking a bit about the workflow sort of side of things. Also, I managed to put in some hopefully good jokes. So this is the classic two fonts walk into a bar. Bartender says, "Sorry, we don't serve your type."
Oh.
Yeah, we need the sound effects here.
Everyone say ha 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 in the chat if you laugh.
Yeah. No. That was easing into it. So the way the workshop works, so it's a 90-minute workshop, all in person. Everyone has computers, and we follow along. So we went over a few different activities, and this was very similar to. I think if you watched the previous streams, you will have seen the overview of Tim Brown's online learn content that we have about type. So it's similar sort of stuff about how you can start by shaping your paragraphs and thinking about the reading experience. Those times where you pick up a book that you absolutely love. Obviously, the writing is important, but also the look and the all the typography within the book is what is making you be able to read for a sustained period of time. We want to think about how we can actually get people to read all of our message, right? Because all of design is effectively communication, and type is a great shortcut for that, and we want people to actually read what we have to say. So we went over this exercise of how you can use basic principles to actually shape text to make people read it. Then we jumped over to headings. First, another terrible joke. So the type on the restaurant menu was set too small, so I decided to leave. I just couldn't see the point. They don't get any better. Okay, so then we moved on to display typography, and it's kind of that opposite part of to the body text, right? So body text, we really want people to read everything. Display text, we want to shout about our message. We want to be like, hey, come look at this. We're not so bothered about legibility. We're more focused on drawing people's attention in. So we talked about some ways that you can do that using size and spacing. Then, after another joke, I was reading a book the other day and I got really mad. Don't worry though, it was fully justified. So then we moved on to some of the details, getting into what's called micro typography, right? So the macro stuff is all the big picture, micro is all those tiny little details. So we looked at some open type features, we looked at some punctuation, we looked at some spacing, all of those really small details that takes it from that 80% to that 100%. Another joke, I think this is the last one, don't worry. I found an old newspaper which was printed in 2 different versions of the same font. It was the best of times. It was
Who wrote these jokes?
Unfortunately, I was trying to research a few different ones, and I kind of put them together based off a few other things. So I can't take all the credit. I don't know if I want to really.
Oh, so you did add some of your own.
Oh yeah, I
creativity.
spent far too much time.
The most stressful part of this whole thing was making sure those jokes were just right.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we started small, then we went to the big stuff, then we went to the details, then we looked at how we can make a whole system from those decisions. Basing your work off your type is the way that I like to work. This is kind of based off this somewhat older principle now, and this is a famous book from the typographer Jan Tschichold, where he wrote this book about how you can base your proportions and your design layout for books based off the actual page layout itself, like the page sizing itself. Now, this principle is somewhat changed these days because with our multiple kind of media output of content, right, with screens and everything, we can't always rely on the page size itself to make these decisions upon. So the principle that I like to use is starting with a type for those decisions and building out your system from there, so you can use those decisions across all of your layouts and different media, etc. And you can do that using either something like a modular scale, where you use math to do all the hard work, right? You make some decisions to start with, and then you use math to extrapolate out a scale of numbers that's based off different ratios. And then at least there's some core principles that's going to be bringing everything back together and hopefully giving you some harmony. There's also Gestalt principles of this is somewhat design theory meets psychology. So we went over some of the details about how you can use proximity, where if you group things together, or even have a heading closer to a piece of text, our subconscious is going to be like, these things live together because they're closer. And when things are similar as well, we do the same thing. So even this layout here, there's 4 different things, and we kind of view them as all, okay, these are all the same hierarchy of information. So we touched upon how that can be used for your typography to help you with your layout, etc. Okay, don't worry, there's still one more joke. This one is I'm very proud of. It took me a long time to come up with this one. Anyway, G, J, P, Q, and Y. They're on this field trip. They've gone to the Empire State Building roof deck, but they had to leave. Not because they were scared of heights, but they realized they were descenders.
Yay! I like that one.
That's a good
one. Anyway, to sum things up, we went through how you could use this type of workflow to start working type first in your designs, if that's the way that feels comfortable to you, and how that kind of plays out a bit more in reality. I won't read through all of this because we're going to swiftly run out of time. But I think the main principle was, is if you can start from your type, it's one way of working that can bring harmony to your design, without having to be like, oh, how do I do all this stuff, and without being intimidated by what you're doing.
Also, Jake, would you say that, type being so foundational, and like you said, the stuff you make can show up on so many different things, would you say that if you actually work out something like type early on, it will probably save you headaches later?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is, I don't know if anyone else uses the term type first, but this is really the way that I think when I'm doing, even small or small to large projects, right? If you can nail that stuff early, it gives you that foundation that you can use for your whole layout, right? Typography is, we're focusing on the text and the communication predominantly, but it kind of boils down to your whole layout as well. You have to think about the white space and the grid and all the margins. Like, that's so intrinsic to the type itself as well. So if you can nail the type early, you get all that other stuff kind of for free.
Nice.
Font math.
Font math. I know, it's the only math that I like doing.
Nail the type. Everything else is free.
I like that as a tagline.
Oh yes, I love it. Okay, moving on. So that was the workshop, and then we also gave a talk. So Nicole from our team, our head of product, we gave a talk together all about Adobe Fonts. So this was kind of an overview of what you get, making sure everyone knows about all the different pieces that they get access to. One of the things that we always hear at Max when we're talking to people is like, oh, I didn't even know that you had this, or, oh, I missed out on this thing. So we wanted to give a quick overview of all the different things that are available. Now, obviously, we've talked about a lot of those things on the live stream over the weeks before, so I won't go through absolutely everything again, but I will show some of the pretty slides because I had a lot of fun. Ooh. I think I used like 150 fonts in the presentation or something. I used like every single slide was a new font. I spent more time on that than I should have.
These look really
but,
great though. So
Yeah,
thank you.
this is amazing.
Yeah, I always, every time I work in a presentation, I always just want to make the slides first, and I'm like, oh, I'll figure out what I'll say later. This time we actually did work on the talk first, but then I was like, I'm still going to spend a lot of time on the slides. So anyway, it's a nice excuse to be able to highlight some of the great fonts that we have.
it also
in
shows, I mean,
the
we've
library.
mentioned this before, but it shows just how different each one of those slides was. They all had the same text. They all said find your
Right.
character. And
Yeah.
some of them look so kind of ornate and elegant, and others look just fun and like something you'd see in a toy store. And then some look like something you'd see on a blog, so, on a Sybil blog. It's cool to see the same text represented so many times.
Right. And that was, one of the things that we were actually talking about with people at the booth at Max was, how do people describe fonts? Like, what is their vocabulary when you think about fonts? Like, if you look at any of these, like, how would you try and describe those things, right? Because, we're also used to searching for fonts just by their names, but we're trying to make sure that we can, help people with the words that they're already thinking about, be able to quickly find, that emotion, because as you say, Ben, it's all so different.
Yeah.
And Jake, what did you hear from people after this? Did you still hear what we've been hearing like in past years, that people weren't aware that they had access to this many fonts, or do you think the message has been communicated better recently?
I think,
I'm curious.
I think this year everyone seems to be like, oh yeah, I know that, I use that, and
That's good.
yeah, it was great to hear that we've been doing better marketing. Maybe because of this wonderful live stream, people have been hearing how much they have to offer. Anyway, so yeah, again, in the slides, I took the excuse to show off a bunch of really nice fonts from our library. So the theme was creativity, obviously. So I was trying to come up with a lot of nice creative words to highlight here, and obviously showing off some of the breadth of the language support that's available. Now, Ben, earlier you asked about my favorite fonts added to the library recently. This slide, I think these are all added in the last like 3 or 4 weeks. And just look at them. They're amazing. I love every single one of these.
I'm curious, this Fabiola.
Yeah.
So how
this
long
one
did
I
that
used
take you to do the
Well,
intertwine?
it took me like a second because of the intertwine feature from last Adobe Max. But yeah, this feels like, I think some of their images, show them in a similar way. And I was like, this font was clearly, or this family with both the serif and the script, it was made for intertwine with all those amazing swashes.
Mhm.
So I had a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah, those of you watching, have you used the intertwine feature? Let
In
us
Illustrator,
know. And we
right?
have we have this new family for you to check it out with.
I think that was one of the big highlights from Max last year.
Mm-hmm.
Then obviously I got to highlight a lot of Ari's amazing work with our Foundry partner relationships. So these are, just a handful of the amazing partners that we get to work with. And one section I did want to highlight very quickly was we got to talk over some ways that you can find fonts through inspiration. So we have capture from the mobile app, and this is my gym in the South Bay, LA, and
Pretty fun type.
yeah. And I took this awful picture, just snapped it on my phone very quickly without, not even straight. It's all kind of on an angle. There's a lot of glare. And, within a couple of seconds, I get these great recommendations all just from my phone. So that's a great way to, if you see something out in the wild, you can quickly snap a picture and find some similar fonts. Behance, if you come over to the tools, when you do a search, you can select Adobe Fonts and you can see a bunch of different things that were made using Adobe Fonts, which is super fun for that inspirational starting point. We have font packs on the Adobe Fonts website. So if you go to fonts.adobe.com/collections, we have a bunch of different starting points available for you there. We have our recommendations page as well, where you can find fonts that are recommended just for you based off the things that you've used before. And of course, we have the new Adobe Express templates, which are, these are all professionally designed, and they have a ton of great use of type, which again can be that, like, when you're trying to find some context and you really want to find a great font based off, maybe it's like a gym sort of vibe, right? Finding that sort of right fit based off the emotion of what you're going for. These can be a great starting point as well. And that is it from the couple of sessions that I did. Now we're going to hand it over to Ari to share some of the other announcements from Max.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you for taking us through that, Jake. Yeah, I'm curious in the room what the reaction was from everyone. It sounds like we've gotten the word out, but there was still some kind of behind the scenes some sneaky tips in there that not everybody knows about.
Oh yeah, there's always room for more type tips.
Yeah. All right, Ari, what are you showing us?
So also a new thing that was announced at Max was Retype in Illustrator, and it's this handy tool that can recognize text in existing images and recommend a match, a font that is either available from Adobe Fonts or even a font that you have on your machine, and substitute the text with that font so you can then change the text. It becomes live text. So this is really cool because I know that even for me, in the past, I've seen things I liked. For example, this Aretha Franklin poster. What if I wanted to use this, but have it say something else and use it as a starting point?
Oh, but just to be clear, this is just an image, right? Like this isn't an Illustrator file.
Yep.
This is
it's
just
an
an
image. I can't do anything to this. It's just an image that I copied. I just found it online and then pasted it into Illustrator. And then if I launch Retype and I enter Retype, which is the button here, I feel like I'm entering into a new world where all the fonts can be found. So when you enter Retype, you can select any of these text boxes and it recognizes where the text is. And then in here, it gives you recommendations, and you can filter those by Adobe Fonts or also from your device. So that means, like, if you've purchased fonts, downloaded fonts that are on your computer, it will pull from those as well. I just filtered it to Adobe Fonts right now. And then you can go through and see what it's suggested. It's doing a pretty good job. I think that since these letters on the original poster are jumping around, it might not be recognizing exactly, and we might not have a font that's exactly like that, but it gives you a suggestion that's similar. So if I want to choose latex, I just click on that, and then at the moment it's applying it to this text. And when it applies it, it will take on the same, as much as it can, the same colors and background that it had. So now I'm going to do the Aretha part. It didn't quite match the letters, but that doesn't really matter because we can always change the text. But I'm just going to type in the right letters here at the top. You can type whatever text you want because I probably want to change this. So I might want to see what it's going to look like when I change it. So maybe I'll put my own name, whatever. I can do whatever I want. Let me actually, because my last name's not going to fit where the Franklin was. Let's do something else. So I'm going to choose this, apply this, and then after that, I'll exit the Retype world and we can then see what happened and make our edits. So it's now applying the font. Okay. So I'll come out of here. It didn't quite get the colors right, but now I can type into here. Why am I? Oh, sorry. Let me change this color. Let's see. I'll just make it this for now so I can see it. Let's see what happened. So it had a red background before, and then it changed it to this color behind the Behance one. Let me see what happened. Didn't quite get that background. Oh, well, but you can get the idea here.
So does it take the text out of the image as well?
Yeah, it creates a new background. And in this case, it added this yellow thing, so it kind of messed it up, but I can try that again. And then we can also enter Retype again to do this part. So it recognizes the text. Let's see.
Some pretty good options.
Yeah, I'm going to apply this. So then when it applies it, it then adds this background and adds the new text on top so that the previous text is no longer there. It definitely, I would guess it works better. It has a new background color. It worked so well before we were live when I was testing this. But yeah, you get the idea. Like you have so many options of fonts that work well. You apply them, and then it should mimic the style of what was there before. So it's applying it.
So it's basically, what it's trying to do is create a background color that's the same as whatever's behind the text.
Yes.
So that covers up the previous image, then imports the font, and then applies it with the same letters or numbers or whatever. That's what's happening.
Right.
Nice.
And then you can edit it and then create a whole new thing with your own text. So it's still applying. Okay. So it thinks everything is yellow. But you can see that I can edit this text. There's so many windows. Okay. So you can see that I can edit this. I'm writing Behance on everything. And it will just fit in. Okay, I want a different date. I mean, aside from the colors, it's really working. And it's picking up on where there's text, and it's finding very similar fonts.
Yeah, this script one's very close. Like those are difficult.
Yeah. So now again, the color, maybe I should have picked something with less colors. There's a lot of different things going on here, but it's finding good alternatives. So it works. It worked earlier. With
just for experimental sake, I say let's close this and reopen it and just see what it does that time. I'm just curious. If we just start over.
Start over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I exited it. I can just go back to what it was before I did anything.
Whoa.
This is what it was. And then if I enter Retype, I have to select the image first and then go to type Retype. And now it's entering. And then if I choose, I'll just choose this one.
Because it just seemed really stuck on the yellow background thing. It got real
know.
excited about yellow backgrounds.
It did. So there might, yeah, see, it's doing the same thing again.
I have an example I can share, Ben, if you want to switch to mine.
Oh, sure.
So this is an example from one of my favorite coffee shops. If I exit this, so this was from Bluestone Lane Coffee. They did this 10-year anniversary campaign, all using Adobe Fonts. So when I go into Retype, I can select, any of these ones up here or this big Australia, and this is the actual font. Max Poll is the one that's used. So if I apply that straight to the document, it gets converted to live text. It doesn't have all the, that cool uppy downy thing, but this one isn't struggling the colors. It got that yellow perfect. It actually removed it all from the background as well. That's kind of cool. Like, it didn't do the cover up, it just straight up removed it.
So then you could change it to win a trip to any other city.
England, with those
Nice.
beautiful beaches. And then from there, I could switch into the touch type tool to copy their little styling thing that they had before.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Also, that did a really good job removing the background.
Yeah.
Right. Look at that. It's pretty good.
Nice. Very cool. So check that out. There's also a link in the chat for using Retype if you want to check it out.
Yes. Has anyone tried it? Let us know.
All right, what else do we got going on?
The other thing that we wanted to talk about, let me get out of this, I think. All right. So if you weren't able to attend Max or you didn't catch some of the talks live, there are recordings of a lot of them. One of them was by our other teammate, Camille, and she talked about variable fonts. And the whole talk is recorded. If you just press play here, you can watch the whole thing, which is great. Highly recommend. If you haven't used variable fonts before, or you just want to see what are the possibilities of using them, why they were created, and how it works.
Yes.
Any other notes on that, guys?
I was just going to say that Jack has the links for all of these sessions that we're mentioning here. So once they're posted, you'll be able to check them out.
Yes. So that's one of them. And then we wanted to highlight some of these sessions that are on demand, available to view. So
these were
Ben,
online sessions, and basically how it works is the presenter pre-records basically a very short presentation. It's like 25 minutes long. They pre-record a presentation, and then they play the video, and it's them talking. So they're not actually delivering it live because it has to be right within that 25-minute window. But we worked with all of the presenters, and they are there live answering questions in the chat and talking to everybody. So it's kind of like they're there live, even though they're not actually presenting live. But it was kind of a combo. I ended up moderating this session and another one that we'll talk about. And this one was called Generative Typography, Creative Technology as Muse. And basically, really the whole philosophical idea here, or just the kind of artistic workflow idea here, was that you can use generative tools to create unexpected things that can then lead you in a whole new direction. So rather than using generative type to just make one thing and then be done, it's like, well, what if I do generative type and I give it a crazy prompt, or I do something really odd, and then that gives me a whole new set of ideas, and then I can tweak and flesh those out and talk about them further. They're definitely doing another level. Like, she was doing all this machine learning stuff, and she was trying to create her own, like she ran tarot cards through a machine learning algorithm to see if they could learn what a tarot card was and recreate them. They look pretty They look pretty
Wow.
wacky, but it's very fun. It's very interesting. Well worth checking out for that kind of stuff. So I would definitely look at that. Great session.
Awesome. Well, I'm already so intrigued by what I'm
Right?
seeing. Yeah, and I know Lin Yoon is amazing. I've seen her talks before, so I haven't watched this one yet, but I would highly recommend her and anything she would talk about.
It's a very good balance of kind of art and creativity mixed with programming. But Lynn isn't a programmer, and so for me, I found it inspiring because I feel like a lot of people who are on the designer art side are like, "Ooh, I think programming is scary," and they don't dip their toes in. And for me, from this, it's like you should totally dip your toes in, or find a friend who's good at it, and then kind of collaborate with them. That's also something that Lynn does. So it's very inspiring for that as well. Don't be afraid
Cool.
of the code.
Yes. All right. And then the next one here is from Sophie Eleanor.
Yeah, so I didn't moderate this one in the chat, but I found this after the fact, and it's a really fun. Again, all of these are all 25 minutes, so they're really easy to just go through really fast. This one talks about animating in both Photoshop and After Effects, and if you've ever seen someone do a kind of like animated written text or things like this, and you've wanted to do that kind of effect, this is definitely something worth checking out. Or you could play a little bit of it and maybe click through and see. There's definitely some really cool examples in there of the animations that she's doing. But if you've ever wanted to animate text in either Photoshop or After Effects, this is a great session.
Cool. I love this starting slide.
Yeah,
So
if you
Really
like
cool.
if you like that starting slide, you'll like this session. It's more or less how do you do that and animate it.
Ooh,
So very fun stuff.
very cool. I want to go to the end and see how she animated it, but I won't.
No, do it.
I'll
Yeah,
watch it.
I want you to do it. Let's do it.
I'm like, can I give it away? Ooh, that's cool.
Yes, this will give people a little bit of a little what is it? A little cookie crumbs, something exciting to go learn how to do.
Very cool. Amazing background. I'm so jealous. Jake,
Yeah.
you're almost there if you add some shapes to your wall.
You both
got the
have me
plan.
beat. I just have the yellow kitchen wall behind me, so I've got a long way to go.
All about the fonts.
Okay. And then this one from Nigel French, typography across InDesign, Illustrator, and Photoshop.
Yes. So if you want tips and typography, I guess, workflows across all the major apps, this is a fantastic place to start. Again, it's 25 minutes, so you get about a tip every, 3 minutes you get a tip. But there's a bunch of really good stuff in here. Obviously, Jake just showed the touch type tool where you can kind of just move the letters around wherever you want in Illustrator, but it's still editable type. That happens in here. Alternates for different letters happens in here. So some open type features, some different ways of, I think, dealing with tracking and leading and all of this stuff, and just kind of shortcut type things. So this was really good. Yeah, so again, well worth watching. A real, like, all of these are like, again, 25 minutes. So it's like boom, 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 tip, 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 tip. And, but you can follow along and try all this stuff out. So it's really good. And this one had good tips for all the major apps.
And Ben, you were moderating this?
Yeah, so I was just
On
in
the
the chat in case there were questions and whatnot, and people needed help with things. So turns out most of the time people are just like, "Whoa, that's so cool! Wow, that's so cool! Whoa, how'd you do that?" So that was most of what people were talking about, and then there was a few questions, and then we would Nigel would weigh in and tell us that stuff. So I think in that part, Nigel's was in InDesign talking about kind of the style sheets featured in InDesign, where you can set up what a chapter heading looks like, what a body text look like, what these different things look like, and how you can basically, once you have this set up, you can create a whole book, and it's all made for you. Like once you have these rules in place. So that kind of goes back to what Jake was talking about earlier, where if you get your type worked out early in a project, it's very easy to continue from there. So this is a really good one, highly recommended. All of these, or this one had tips in every app that I had not heard of. So good stuff.
Oh, there's the touch type.
Yeah, every time I see that.
It's so cool.
And I forget.
That's great.
Oh yeah, this is in Photoshop. So how do you slice something up and kind of
Ooh,
create those various looks? So very cool stuff.
very cool. Did anyone ask you any hard questions, Ben?
No, there were 0 hard questions. There was a few detailed questions that Nigel and Lynn answered, but there was nothing where I had to. There was nothing where I was sweating. You know, I was like,
That's
"Ooh,
good.
what do I do here?" So it all worked out.
I'm going to start slicing everything now. This is inspiring me.
I do like things sliced. It's similar to that effect that Jake used with the intertwine, where you have letters going behind and in front of things. That's just something I like seeing. Oh, this was so if you've ever done this before, where you try to use a layer, you try to use a blend mode with text on top of something textured, but the text looks so crisp. And so how do you make the text look just as janky as the background, so it kind of looks like it's actually printed on the background? And that's the tip that he goes through here. So it's just cool stuff like that. So like if you've ever tried to do this before and you're like, why does the text look so sharp? I want it to look a little grungy because, the background's grungy. He takes you through how to do that very quickly. So it's very fun. You basically create a displacement mask, which is its own thing. So here you see he's using the blend modes, but the text is still very sharp. And then by the end, he does a couple things and it makes it look all rusty and dusty.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting when the difference between sometimes you find a font with almost these effects built in, like the rough or textured fonts, or you can go the other route where you find, maybe you prefer a different style, and yeah, you go in and manipulate it like this. Like it's, there's obviously no right or wrong, but you get kind of the same sort of thing.
Yes. And one other thing, these sessions, the on-demand ones, will be live for a year. So if you bookmark them, watch them before the end of the year, or watch them before a year from now. Oh yeah, so here he's doing it now.
Plenty of time.
Or you can skip to the end and maybe see when he adds the text effect. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
Much better. It looks like it's
That's
kind of
really
printed on
cool.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. So that's before and that's after. It's subtle, but it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So definitely check that out. And is that the last we have of the sessions
Yes.
to highlight?
That's what we have to highlight.
Rock and roll.
The type related ones. And then there's so many more that are not type related. So you could spend a long time watching these.
Yes, there's plenty of other sessions. And actually, I didn't even show all of the sessions that might have some cool type tips in them. There's stuff that goes more detailed into After Effects and Illustrator specifically and all the stuff. And I'm sure there's great tips in there as well. Also, we like tips that aren't just type related, as I'm sure you do too. So plenty of cool stuff to go check out. Jake, is your talk getting posted live, or is it like Camile's?
I don't know.
Okay. Well,
I think maybe.
nice. All right.
But the workshop was only in person. That was had to be that type of thing.
Nice. Jake, any other highlights from Max?
Oh my goodness. Day 2 is my favorite day. Day 1 is like, it's all the announcements. It's like, here's all the new AI, everything. which is obviously amazing. But then day two is, it's where we have those inspirational keynote speakers. And this year was so amazing. I was so glad to be there in person. It was, although, it's also, you can watch it online as well still. So Aaron Draplin started, I think, and he's just always so inspirational. He's such a great speaker. He keeps it real. Every time I see him speak, I'm like, ugh, it's just so good. He's so good at what he does. And he's so good at sharing about what he does as well. Then I'm going to forget the rest of the names because I was busy crying because they were so emotional as well.
Ari's going to look it up real quick for us.
I'm looking up. You can tell because my keyboard's so loud.
Also,
that I'm typing.
Jack posted both keynotes and the Mac Sneaks link in the chat. So the inspirational keynote is the one Jake was talking about.
Yeah.
Yes. So Karen X Chang.
Yeah. So Karen's talk was all about social media.
Yes.
Oh, Ari, can you show the talk on your screen?
Oh, my actual screen. Yes.
So we all can see it with you.
I'm searching. Okay. So yeah, Karen was first. Let's see. That was Karen and Aaron. Oh, maybe Aaron was first.
Yeah, Aaron was first.
Sorry, Aaron was first. He thanked his partner Lee. That was cool. That's that slide. Then Karen.
Yeah, so her talk was all about, I think what many of us feel about social media, that kind of like the pros and cons of it's such an amazing tool for sharing your creativity, but it's also soul destroying because you're a slave to the algorithm. And, sometimes the thing that you put the most effort into is the thing that, doesn't get the likes or it doesn't get the airtime. And then you do something that, maybe is less really what you want to do, but, you've done it for the algorithm and it goes viral and blah, blah, blah. So she was sharing some of her tips about how she manages that, dichotomy of good and bad.
Yeah, it's like something you have to use to get ahead, but you need to balance it out with yourself and your own fulfillment.
Insanity.
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Okay.
Otherwise, you just end up spending all of your time on that.
I think this was Walker, right?
Yes.
Creative director, Walker Noble.
Yeah, Walker shared his incredible inspirational story of life through the pandemic and how he got this huge retail deal with his artwork. And this is when the waterworks is really, starting a little bit. He was super inspirational. Like sharing his journey and talking about how I think his quote was like, "Why not me?" And he was kind of posing this as a question to everyone there of like, sometimes we look at what we do and we're like, oh, I'm nothing special. Like, why could any of this stuff happen to me? But like his kind of thing was like turning it on its head and saying like, why can't all this stuff happen to us? So again, very inspirational. He shared some wonderful personal stories as well.
It's fantastic.
And then last but not least, I think Oak Felder was the final.
Yes.
And I was just in tears. Everyone should watch it. It's an incredible talk.
Nice.
And
the link is in the description. Everybody check that out. Also, go check out Make Type Work. That's Jake's website, all about making type work. It sells itself.
It does.
But definitely check that out. Jake, so good to have you again. Thank you for helping us go through the Max recap. Ari, always a pleasure to see you. Also, if you enjoy the Adobe Fonts show, you should follow us on behance.net/Adobe Fonts. Check our project page there for all the previous streams. We post all the streams there, but they're under the projects page because we're streaming to YouTube and Adobe Live. So they're not going on our live streams page, but you can find all the past stuff there. So definitely check that out and follow us on Behance. Helps us out a lot. And then go to adobefonts.uservoice.com if you want to tell us anything that you need from Adobe Fonts. If there are fonts you want, if there are features you want, if there's problems you've been having, if there's struggles you've been having, let us know there. We will help you out.
With any of your problems.
Any problem.
Excellent. Thank you again, both of you. We'll see you in a
Thank you,
couple weeks.
everyone.
Everybody stay tuned. Next is Creative Design. So they're making zines. Go check that out. That's up right after us. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.